somebody will just park his car. Once the car develops faults, he will leave the car on a highway and just put 2 or 3 leaves there and go away. If we have knowledge of safety, nobody will do. You don't need to be told. You don't need a policeman or road safety to harass you or tell you to move that car away. If you have knowledge of safety, you will know that, one, you are endangering the life of people. So you move it to a safe place rather than putting leaves or putting something on top of the car. Does not even putting caution sign does not even stop an accident from occurring.
In the words of William Henry Gates III, American business magnate, software developer, investor, author, and philanthropist. He's also co-founder of Microsoft, along with his childhood friend, Paul Allen. He once said, "Innovations that are guided by smallholder farmers, adapted to local circumstances, and sustainable for the economy and environment will be necessary to ensure food security in the future." Okay, let's take our second quote, and this one is from Robert Waterman McChesney. He is an American professor notable in the history and political economy of communications and the role media play in democratic and capitalist societies. He once said, "If you are running for re-election in the House of Representatives race, you know it is very important to you that you be on fairly good terms with the local affiliates in the largest market in your area. I mean, you don't want to antagonize them." What does that even mean? Okay, let's move. Take the next quote from Sir Dennis William Brogan. He was a Scottish writer and historian, and he once stated that, "As debate is rare in the House of Representatives, since nearly all real business is done in the communities, it is very natural that such debates as there is should be very oratorical, should be." Okay, let us see how all of this could relate to what or who we will be discussing tonight. Very warm greetings and welcome to The Conversation. We're reaching you from KAFTAN's television here in the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Annabelle Oji. Now, like I said, we'll see how all of this could relate to what or who we will be discussing tonight. And tonight, my guest is Honorable Amos Gwamna Magaji, popularly referred to as Honorable AGM. He is a Nigerian politician and member House of Representatives representing Zango Kataf, Jaba Federal Constituency, Kaduna State. He's a medical doctor by training, and Honorable Magaji is the Vice Chairman, House Committee on Health, and also the Chairman on a House Committee on Agriculture. And he is a very vocal member of the Night House of Assembly. Honorable Amos Magaji also clinched the PDP return ticket for a second term in office. So we will be having this discussion with him to see to talk about both agriculture, medical, tourism. We have a lot of things to discuss about tonight. You don't want to miss this part of the show. Join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is The Conversation. We're reaching you from KAFTAN's television here in the nation's capital, Abuja. If you just joined us, you're right on time for the interview. Our guest on the show tonight is Honorable AGM, that's Honorable Amos Gwamna Magaji. He is the House of Reps member representing Zango Kataf and Jaba Federal Constituency. It's great to have you on the show, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Now let's start by sailing this ship and talk about your party. So now, how have your party been able to keep the house together? I mean, PDP, how have you been able to keep the house together in order? That's in the 9th Assembly, judging from the disagreements or the rancors that they had in the last Assembly, that's the 8th Assembly. So how have you been able, like members of the House of Representatives, how have you been able to keep the house together and then you always move in one accord?
I mean, as a house or as a
as a
mandate?
house?
As a house, yeah.
Yes.
I will give it to the Speaker, Right Honorable Gbajabiamila. He actually tried from the day of inception, from the day of inauguration. He actually started what they call the nation building. He declared that the nation building is a joint tax. And where the Speaker sits, there is a frame there. When you look at the frame, you will see different political parties are represented there. And then there are some key committees that he also gave members of the opposition party. And then with that, there's no way there's no assembly that will be crisis free, but then is the ability to manage it and of course continue. There are crises in different areas. Some people, what they expected is not what they have. And then sometimes again, inter and intra-party crises this is politics, so they are bound to happen in politics, especially when you have also 360 people in the same house. You should expect that not everybody, divergent views in different area. What the other person will be looking at will be different from what somebody else will be thinking. And then, so sometimes we have those differences when you are focusing on different things. You know,
But sorry to cut in there, but
yeah.
it's not as pronounced as what you have before, like with especially with the rankles you have with the presidency. They come up with one word, and then you have different voices.
Because you see, I think over the years, the speaker has always emerged from majorly from within the house, and then there has always been, like during the time of Dogara and so on, what the executive wanted wasn't what the house, decided to pick. And also, I think, is it Bankole, or when you trace the history backward, you will discover that most times the leadership of the house were always at par with the executive. What I mean is that it may not necessarily be the person that the executive wanted to be the speaker that emerged. But I think in Ninth Assembly, it's different, because the speaker was, I think, the choice of the executive, and then of course you also had an overwhelming support from the house. So it was I think that also helped in the executive stroke legislature relationship, because that was the choice majorly from the house and also from the executive.
All right. Now let's talk about your political ambition. Now, I understand that you would be going into the ring come 2023. So now what, and I know that you will be contesting with the power blocks in the state, as in Kaduna State. So what are your chances of being re-elected again? Even like, as they say that they always remind you of the power of the incumbent. What are your chances of coming back again?
Very, very high. Yeah, I would say 95% or 99%. To be very frank, I will tell you something. If somebody does well, we need to praise him on that area. Many people talk about my governor, El-Rufai. We don't belong to the same party. If you know, Southern Kaduna is predominantly PDP. But there is something about him that I cherish so much. He doesn't meddle with election. He doesn't. He allows whatever the people decides, and that stands. And that is commendable as a governor. So El-Rufai will not come. If PDP wins Zaria now, El-Rufai will allow PDP to be in Zaria. Look at the local government elections. Many of the local government were won by PDP. In states in local government where PDP had not won election for some years back. But he allowed it. You understand? If it were some governor and some state, I don't think that would have been allowed. So I am so sure with what we have done on ground, with what the recommendation we have received from people, we believe that we won't have problem coming back 2023.
Okay, so what are your relationship with the youth of your constituency?
Very fantastic. We have done several projects and programs that has affected the youth, and then we have drawn them to see the need. Because when you look at the country as a whole, the rate of unemployment is very, very high. And sometime this year, I was speaking with the NYC DG, and I asked him, how many graduates do you produce, or how many coppers do you turn out every year? And the statistic is shocking. Over 200 graduates go through NYC every year. Now imagine, where do you think all these graduates that are being produced every year, where do they go? The unfortunate thing is that government, as a major employer of labor in Nigeria, cannot absorb 200,000 every year. And that's why we need to grow the private sector, so that employment, the rate of unemployment can be drastically reduced. The government alone cannot do that. So until the economy is thriving, the economy is booming, before private sector will rise. And then, of course, once private sector is doing well, once our economy is driven by the private sector, you discover that unemployment rate will drastically come down. So the youth in our constituency, we discovered that, okay, with this gap in unemployment, we had to find many ways of engaging them in agriculture. We try also to engage them in some of the petty trading. And then, of course, we also train people on skills. Some of them are graduates. Some of them are people that we, of course, depending on your level of education, because somebody didn't go to university or polytechnic does not mean that the person does not have anything to do. And of course, not everybody will earn a degree. We have to come to terms with that in our communities, in our societies, there are many people that cannot go to school. Some, you can push them. They have the ability to go to school. If you pay their school, they will be able to go to school. There are some, even if you give them the money and say go to school, they themselves know that they can't go to school. So what do we do with those ones? Do we leave them like that? They will grow up, they will get married and have children. So we need to find a way of supporting them, so that at the end, even if they didn't go to school, their children will be able to go to school. So with that, we are gradually bridging the gap of lack of education in our community, and then, of course, get them something to do. With minimal educational level, somebody will be able to operate a POS. You can be able to make shoes. You'll be able to do some of this vulcanizing and so on. What we did again is that, apart from training them on those trades, we also train them on savings. But what I discover is that it will shock you what these petty traders make every day. The problem is that sometimes they don't know how to turn the money, or they don't know how to save. Just if a petty trader makes like 2,000 every day, after the overhead and so on, at the end of the month, the person has like 60,000. Now, how many graduates earn 60,000 a month? What it means is that the 60,000 is your own profit. But if you give a graduate now 60,000 and he's living in Maraba, the 60,000 he will pay rent. Now the school fees, water bill, light bill, transportation, feeding, and so on. So at the end, you discover that at the end of the month, the person may not have the luxury of saving about 20,000. But this is somebody living in the community, living probably in the family house. You understand? He's not paying anything for water. And then, of course, the light bill is not even something wonderful. The schools that they are paying maybe 2,000 in the community, if they come to Abuja, they will pay something like 200, 100, 20, 30, 40,000, which they may not be able to cope. So we also encourage them that wherever you are staying, get something doing, so that people will not just start moving into the city without anything doing. You can stay in that community. And my community is, we are known with ginger. Yeah, we have the best ginger in the world. So when you go to Jaba local government and toward Kachia, Southern Kaduna, entirely, it's good with ginger. So somebody can stay there, cultivate ginger or process ginger, and then from there you can even transport ginger to other, export ginger. So if you know what to, we have actually empowered so many people on businesses like this. We also got some loan for some, and then it has assisted many of them to build their lives.
So now taking a cue from where you just landed, how much will your constituency rate you and your activities, even as this administration is gradually winding down? I'm going to ask you two questions and I'd like you to unbundle them in one breath. Now that's one on the side. And then secondly, what are your campaign strategies? What are you campaigning on, even as you're looking forward to coming back in 2023? So what are your bargaining chips as you're coming back again?
Thank you very much. You see, we've been able to execute projects in every world. I don't think we have had it like that since 1999. That every world you can trace a tangible physical project. They are there. You understand? You can lie about something that is not there, but every word now, if you put a call to the world, they can take you to places where we have done either classroom, we have built roads, we have done solar borehole, we have done street lights, we have empowered people in agriculture. There are human capital development that we have executed, and the names are there. And then also physical development that we have executed, and of course they are there. The pictures are there, and then the physical structures are there standing. So these are things that we don't need to talk so much about. Recently, we also got a bridge that is connecting many communities together, which, as far as I'm concerned, I think that's the major project right now going on in Southern Kaduna.
So is that what you're bargaining with? Is that what that's your campaign strategy as you look forward
First of all, listen, when we came and we said we will do this, maybe they didn't really believe. And what we say we will do, we did. Over and above what we say we will do. So I believe that the people in the constituency will also, they can see it. Some of them are the one calling us. In fact, maybe you put a call. I don't want to sound as if I'm praising myself, but put a call to my constituency. Of course, there is no way 100% everybody will like you, because the person that wants to take your seat will not want to say good about you. But generally, I believe people are happy with my representation, because I can see it. I've heard it. I've heard also from people that, you do yourself a disservice by assuming people like you when people don't like you. Then you will receive a shocker. So it is always important that your evaluation of your strength, your weakness, your threat, you should do it truthfully. Because if where you are weak and you say you are strong, you are just deceiving yourself. So I wouldn't want to give myself a wrong rating. But I believe by the grace of God, we are good.
Okay, so again, I'm going to ask you two questions. Now, the first is, what are the bills that you have sponsored all through your time in the House of Representatives? What bills have you sponsored or co-sponsored that have actually scaled through? That's one on the side. And then secondly, even as you look forward to coming again in 2023, what are the bills, the programs that you are looking forward to, and that you are ensuring that, okay, this policy is, it will definitely, one of my plans as we look forward to 2023 again?
Thank you very much. There are many bills that went through, especially in the educational sector. There are bills that we co-sponsor, and then of course it has gone through, even it has received the presidential assent. We have also done some bills that up to now they've not been, they've not gone to the president for his assent, but we are also pushing on them. Bills that has to do with the construction, or some of them are establishment bills, like the Federal Medical Center in my place. There's also a bill for a university that we are also pushing. There's also a bill for...
In your constituency?
In my constituency.
Okay.
There's also a bill and a motion regarding the conversion or the upgrading of Nok Museum to cultural industry. Nok culture, you know about Nok culture? Is from my place. So there's also a bill on that. And then, of course, I also have bill on minimum qualification for patent medicine vendors. Now, what I realized is that I'm from the medical background, and then many of the people in our communities are consuming drugs that are killing them. So the first thing is that the person prescribing the drugs need to also know what is giving people to consume. So with that, we'll place a minimum qualification for anyone that will be in. We're not saying this patent vendor shop, close them. No, they also they are also helping the community. So what we want to do is that to make sure that they have minimum qualification before they will be able to dispense drugs or be able to attend to people. Because you see, because of the rate of poverty, if you tell somebody now, go to the hospital, they won't go. Once somebody feels a sign of headache, the next thing the person wants to do is to go to a patent shop and with 15 naira or 100 naira, will just say, I have headache, give me paracetamol. Meanwhile, it may not be paracetamol there. And the person, okay, even if you have malaria, one, what type of drug combination that will be good for it? But if the person doesn't know, we'll just combine drugs that are even killing the patient rather than making them well. So I want them to get some level of education that will help them man the patent medicine store. Then we also have bills that we discover also that almost every year, millions or billions of naira lost, to fire. So we want to make sure that every building, depending on the number of occupants in that building, they must have some level of proficiency on people fighting fire. And then, of course, also fire equipment. And then to also involve the firefighting department in approval of buildings.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So that it's not just about the aesthetics of the building, but somebody should look at this building and say, okay, are all fire alarm system fire? If there's fire here, are there evacuation channel? How will somebody go?
And how to get water?
How to get out of the building? And then during construction, did you also put in place safety measures to ensure that people in that building don't put their life at risk? Then we also have bills on issue of standard of curriculum development. In what we want to achieve is that now when you look at this training on safety in Nigeria, we are very, very poor. People are not exposed to safety. So we want the curriculum to be redesigned in such a way that from elementary level, children from primary school will be, they will start teaching them on health and safety. So that as people are growing, you should know about the safety. Look at it, most time we hear about gas explosion in the kitchen, many people are dying, and even driving on the way. Sometimes you see somebody will just park his car. Once the car develops faults, he will leave the car on a highway and just put 2 or 3 leaves there and go away. If we have knowledge of safety, nobody will do. You don't need to be told. You don't need a policeman or road safety to harass you or tell you to move that car away. If you have knowledge of safety, you will know that, one, you are endangering the life of people. So you move it to a safe place rather than, putting leaves or putting something on top of the car does not, even putting caution sign does not even stop an accident from occurring.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so now we do for a break, but before we go on that break, very quickly, I'd like to get your thoughts on, because we've always heard that Southern Kaduna they are marginalized. So aside these policies or these programs that you've rolled out, what other development plans do you have for Southern Kaduna especially?
Thank you. Southern Kaduna, I'm not the senator representing Southern Kaduna. I'm just a member representing 2 local government in Southern Kaduna. Well, we are trying right now to, for some of us that have gotten the ticket to come back, we are trying to actually have a legislative agenda for all the members, even before the election, so that we'll sit down together with the members. Everybody brings issues in his constituency with the senatorial candidate, and we are developing. I am actually the chairman of the legislative agenda committee, where we are trying to bring out issues that have to do with Southern Kaduna, so that immediately we come the 10th assembly, we will hit the ground running with our programs. But of course, it has to be from different, constituency. We'll bring them together, discuss them, and then so we are gathering them, and then we are building our legislative agenda.
So there's a synergy between
There's
all
a synergy between all of us.
All right,
especially
awesome.
in the PDP.
Okay.
But by and large, even if PDP does not get one look, it doesn't mean that we will not bring ourselves under one umbrella and, for the development of our people.
Awesome. Let's go on a quick break, and when we return, the conversation with Honorable AGM continues. I will see you shortly.
Anybody that commits crime, deal with the person. Nobody should be a scapegoat. A Fulani man should not look at it and say nothing can be done to him. And then the natives in Southern Kaduna should also not say nothing can be done. Because listen, if somebody's crop is destroyed and the person takes the matter to the appropriate authority, maybe the police or the court or the traditional ruler, and nothing is done, and it happened again and nothing is done, I personally believe that's why you see that sometimes some people will go and poison their crop or apply chemical in their crop, since I've not been able to get justice. So let me take the law into my hand. And you apply chemicals sometimes. And then the Fulani man will call, or the cow or the whatever will eat it, and then if any of the cattle dies, what happened was that the next thing is that, of course, the person knows where he grazed. He knows the land. So now, what may happen is that they will now go and take revenge on the owner of the land. But how did we get there? We got there because the justice system was broken.
If you've just joined us, this is The Conversation. We're reaching you from KAFTAN's television here in the nation's capital, Abuja. If you just joined us, you've missed out on a lot, but then you can still join in the conversation. Our guest on the show tonight is Honorable Amos Gwamna Magaji. All right, before we went on that break, we've actually talked about quite a lot of things. Now, let's talk about security or insecurity, bearing in mind the burgeoning state of insecurity, especially in the north. And then you have in Kaduna State, you have the governor of Kaduna State. Some time ago, he has complained severally about how the insecurity keeps surging, and then asked the federal government to come to his aid. And then at some point he talked about massive bombardment of terrorist enclaves, which a lot of security experts came up with divergent views in that regard. Now, with regards to security or insecurity, especially in Southern Kaduna, we'll take that one later, but with regards to security generally in the north, what kind of solutions or resolutions have you been able to bring forth in terms of bringing back security to the state?
Yeah, thank you very much. For us, we have actually had our fair share of issue ranging from banditry, kidnapping, herders, farmers, clashes, and so on in my own constituency. And then one of the approach we deployed was to really engage the youth and the community leaders. We actually discovered, especially when these things, sometimes they are mixed. Sometimes you discover that what causes this may have a ripple effect in in another thing. We came to realize that the community peace building process has been eroded. So what we tried to do was to build trust in the community, to build the traditional institution. Because, for example, what used to occur in our communities where whenever there is a problem between the herders and the farmers, you discover that before anybody will even start taking the law into their hands, the herders would have gone to the village head or community leader and say, while children were grazing, they mistakenly, destroy this person's, crop. So we are reporting ourselves, But now it hardly happens. And then the community leader will then call the owner of the farm. Now, before the person will know, the Fulani man or the herder had gone to report himself. So they will call the owner and then they will settle it. Maybe you bring one bag of maize or whatever settlement.
So what point did they get the disconnect coming?
Well, I think maybe, trust kept eroding. And then sometimes with when there is no trust in the community, when somebody feels as okay, maybe his right is not being, his right is being tempered, people will now begin to take law into their hands. And then sometimes again, the destruction of the traditional institution, when they are not being regarded from up down, you see that even in the community, they will not be regarded. So things started happening like that. And of course, you see, another problem is that the youth are also involved in so many things these days. You go to North, you see, and I believe even some part of Nigeria, the youth are engaged in drugs and so many, some of these vices. So it's difficult for somebody on drugs to really say is going to listen to the leaders and whatever they are saying. And of course, sometimes somebody will just tell you, "You're not the one feeding me." And that's why it is important that there should be fairness, there should be justice, there should be equity in every community. Because when these things are not there, it begins to destroy trust. So people will now begin to take the law into their hands. So we gathered them and we spoke to them. And the first meeting that I organized was I brought the different, tribal group. We brought the youth leaders from the Hausa, from the Fulani, from the Atiap, from, community. And we sat down. Everybody brought his own issue. This is what is, these are my problems. This is what I'm angry about. And then we try to trash it and then ask for forgiveness because we didn't want the narratives to go out because a lot had happened. In my constituency, you find out that it has been alleged that Fulani had burned many houses, killed some people. And the Fulani also are saying that they've also killed their people. So we don't want the community to grow in such a way that the Fulani man will go out tomorrow and say, my father was killed in Zango Kataf, my father was killed in Southern Kaduna, or the Southern Kaduna man seen a Fulani man and say, okay, it was Fulani man that killed my father. You see, that bitterness, that pain, they may carry it for generations. So we didn't want that to happen.
And it could bring up a reprisal attacks.
Yeah. So wanted a situation whereby we would live, together in peace. And then nobody is growing with this notion that this person hates me, this person doesn't hate me. So we also brought the law enforcement agents in that meeting. And then one of the things we charged them was that, listen, anybody that commits crime, deal with the person. Nobody should be a scapegoat. A Fulani man should not look at it and say nothing can be done to him. And then the natives in Southern Kaduna should also not say nothing can be done. Because listen, if somebody's crop is destroyed and the person takes the matter to the appropriate authority, maybe the police or the court or the traditional ruler, and nothing is done, And it happened again and nothing is done. I personally believe that's why you see that sometimes some people will go and poison their crop or apply chemical in their crop since I've not been able to get justice. So let me take the law into my hand. And you apply chemical sometimes. And then the fly animal will call, or the cow or the whatever will eat it. And then if any of the cattle dies, what happened was that the next thing is that, of course, the person knows where he grazed. He knows the land. So now, what may happen is that they will now go and take revenge on the owner of the land. But how did we get there? We got there because the justice system was broken. If there were justice, there were fairness, we wouldn't get to the level where somebody feels cheated that is going to take the law into his hand to go and poison a crop so that if any cow eats it, you die and so on. And then, of course, if you kill Fulani man's cow, he will be grieved, he will be angry. And then before you know what's happening, they will come attack this committee. And then sometimes again, these are not the causes of those things. The issue of kidnapping, the issue of banditry. We have had instances where the community believed that people that came to attack were actually not from the same community. But my own take on this is that it is very difficult for a stranger to enter a community without the help of people living there. So how were they able to know which house to attack? Because sometimes when you see the way they attack those houses, they will attack house B, A, and then jump to house E, and then jump to house G. So if it's that you just came to attack community, then you'll be attacking, you'll finish this house and attack the next house and so on. But sometimes they jump houses. So you now begin to wonder, see, they came with a list. Yeah, they came prepared. There are targeted homes that they were looking for.
Oh wow! Now, so what is the National Assembly or especially the House of Representatives assertion with regards to state policing or community policing?
For me, as a person, I support the state police. And many of our communities, many people, there are several motions, there are several bills that have gone on regarding state policing. I don't think the National Assembly is against state policing. Yeah.
But then you have President Muhammadu Buhari is not giving thumbs up to state policing.
Well, I believe that the nation will grow to the point whereby that becomes inevitable. Yeah, when the center can no longer hold, I believe that we are moving gradually to the place where states will begin to, some argument is that maybe the governors will become too powerful to the extent that, they will take it upon their opponents and so on. But you see, no governor stays forever in the office. But I think we need to weigh the pros and the cons, because there is nothing, no system that is proof of error on itself. But of course, as we go, we continue to make amends. We continue to grow in the system. But I think we should have state policing.
All right. Let's talk about climate change, especially with regards to this flood that's actually destroyed lives, properties of a lot of people. And then we got reports that some states were forewarned, but then you just begin to wonder if they actually did anything about it. And then you also begin to wonder what happened or what is happening with the ecological fund. Now, did you actually see this coming before now?
Yes. I've been an occupational health and safety personnel, and I used to train people on environmental management. I'm actually rounding a PhD now in environmental resource management. So many years back, I think that should be around 2014 or thereabout, they were actually warning that there will be a lot of floods as we clock 2000 and going forward. But you see, it's not enough to have the pre-warnings concerning flood and so on. What are the safety nets that are there? these communities that are affected with this flood, even if you tell them that, okay, where will they go? It's easier if we have safety nets, shelter in place, where you can say, okay, we have known that, okay, in so year there may be flood in Nigeria. They begin to construct maybe shelter in place whereby you can now move the community and say, okay, we are going this place. It's easier to move them to an already established safety shelter in place where they will be able to carry out some of their businesses and so. But you see, even if people believe that there will be flood, they may not know the magnitude of the flood. I'm not saying that it was good that they stay, but it's easier to move people, to move them from their ancestral land or homes if you have somewhere you are taking them.
But would these people be ready to move? Because you've seen demolitions happening and then people always attack the government with regards to why would you want to demolish?
We have, most times, we don't educate the people well. Whatever program you have, you need to get people to the point whereby they take ownership. They buy into the program. You don't just come in a day and just say, leave your house, but you explain, educate them, tell them why you are doing that, and let people see that sincerely the government is for them. I don't know if you're getting me. That brings us back to trust. When people trust the government, whatever the government is selling to them, they will take it. But when people feel as if government is all about taking from us, government does not care about us, no matter the policy you're bringing, it will be difficult for you to get acceptance. But when people trust that the government is for them, the government is with them, the government is, doing everything to help them, then you gradually also market your program to them. Before it happens, you will discover that people will take it, and you may not get 100% compliance, but I believe that if you do it early and get them to key into it, you will get their support. Nobody wants to die.
Exactly, nobody wants to die. Now, so still talking about the climate change. Now, some experts and economic think tank have actually predicted that in 2023 there will be massive food crisis and food scarcity, especially in Nigeria, with regards to the insecurity, especially in the northwest, when farmers can no longer go to their farms, and then the flood that actually submerged houses, farms, and all of that. Now, I know that you are the chairman committee house on agriculture, so I'm sure that you already have a blueprint. So walk us through that blueprint.
I'm a member of the House Committee of Agriculture, but let me tell you, some people are predicting that in 2023 there will be hunger, massive hunger, but we are already facing it in my constituency. Since 2020, 2019, when Corona came, in 2020, Zango Kataf was locked down due to coronavirus, and then also crisis in the community. Now, the insecurity has also affected my community to the extent that people can no longer go to farm. People only cultivate the farmland that are near the community. So, and of course, it is very difficult for people to feed their family. And of course, that's their major occupation. That's what they do. So if you can't cultivate the farmlands that you have, and you only depend on the ones surrounding the community, how will you feed your family? We have had several people killed in their farmlands. Because of that, people no longer go to their farms. Now, this flood also came and covered, destroyed many crops, though in our area, not quite, but of course, others too were affected. And I have a friend that said several hectares of land was covered by rain, his rice farm. And then, of course, it would take many days before the water will go down. And by the time the water now, you discover that the farm crops have already been destroyed, damaged. Yeah. You see, there are several things I believe that I think the issue of political will and then the issue of fund. But I think that going forward, if we dredge these major rivers around Nigeria, we can also use it for commerce. We can also use it for, there's no reason why somebody should, in Lokoja should go and pick his container in Lagos. If the river Niger, river Benue are dredged, you discover that you can stay here and receive your container in Lokoja. You will save our routes. You understand? And also, if you dredge these rivers, you discover that it will reduce flood and also, construction of dams.
Now, some experts have actually stated that the government should concession dredging these rivers, the River Niger, to private players. Are you also in that agreement?
Listen, I support anything that will work. Anything that will work. If it will work, I support it. You see, we should have different means of transportation. There are communities whereby they are close. If you go by water, maybe 30 minutes you will reach the next community. But if you are going by road, it will take you 2 hours. And then, of course, movement of goods. It will be perfectly done, recreational. So if we dredge our rivers, I think we are not only going to use it for commerce, we are also going to use it for tourism, we are going to use it for agriculture, we are going to use it for many things. Instead of you bringing heavy equipment, construction equipment from Lagos and it's following all roads, you can bring them through with ship through the water, and if you bring it to Lokoja or somewhere in Benue State, you can move it to the nearest state.
All right. Now let's divert a little bit and talk about health, because I know that you're a medical doctor by training and also the vice chairman, House Committee on Health. So now, what are your thoughts with regards to this massive exodus of brain drain? That's one on the side. I'm going to ask you 2 questions. That's one. And then secondly, what are your thoughts on this medical tourism, and how much can we actually mitigate all of this, seeing how much COVID-19 came out and exposed our flaws? So how can we actually bring all of this in order to bring back our FDIs and then save our health sector from falling?
Thank you. I'm the member, not vice chairman, of the Health Committee on Health. I'm a member of the Health Committee on Health Institution and also Health Services, and I'm also a medical professional. Now, let me just give you a scenario. Personally, I spent over 10 years in ABU for a course of 6 years. I spent over 10 years. Some of my classmates, 15 years, some, hardly. I don't think there's anybody that spent less than 10 years to finish MBBS in the 90s, because of strike, ASU strike, because of also the medical school problem itself. Now, after you spend those years and then you graduate, sometimes you feel, of course, it's an honorable profession. You should be able to get good job, feed your family, and be able, And then, whether you like it or not, numeration is also an attraction. If I place 2 vacancies for you now and say, okay, anyone you apply, you will get. And I say CBN is there, NNPC is there, Ministry of one of those ministries are there. Which one will you pick? The chances is that you will go for CBN or you will go for NNPC. True or false? Now, these people have trained so well, some of them consultants. And then today, some of the Nigerian doctors are even yearning to make the hospital equipped so that they will be able to work And then not all Nigerians want to leave. I bet you. I have colleagues, I have classmates that are forced to leave Nigeria. Not that they want to leave. They like life in Nigeria. Listen, this country is beautiful. Many people want to stay here. If the conditions are favorable, if the atmosphere is good, all this kidnapping are gone, insecurity are gone, and then basically you give people, the basic, what they desire. You be able, as a medical doctor, you shouldn't struggle to build a house. As a medical doctor, you shouldn't struggle to have a car to drive. So if those things are there, I tell you, many will return. You find it difficult to feed your family. The jobs are not even there. You understand? Or those that are even working, you discover that you struggle. The equipment are not there in hospitals. So, and somebody is calling you abroad that come, I will give you thousands of dollars. If it were you, will you stay or you will go? That's the problem we're having. And until we look at our health, 2001 budget of health, if you divide the budget by the population of Nigeria, let's say 200 million, each Nigerian will go home with 2,700. Same year, if you look at the budget of America, with their population, let's say 320 million, each American will go home with over $11,000 as against 2,700. So first of all, the budget for health is even very low. That's one. We actually, as a nation, need to look at, because of our population, sometimes you look at as if, okay, we budget 3 trillion and so, but honestly, because of population and so on, sometimes you look at the budget as if they are big, but when you start implementing, how many health institutions do we have? You begin to share them, and you discover that they are just getting very little. During COVID-19, there were a lot of intervention that came, molecular labs. We intervene a lot of in health institutions, but they are not enough. Some of the, as you said, some of the health institutions were just rotting. COVID-19 exposed so many things. So I think, first of all, health needs to be given priority. And then also, we also need to look at the training of medical professionals. Let's make it attractive. I'm not saying health alone, but let it be that people are working. Let's make labor attractive in Nigeria. We need to look at that. We need to boost our economy so that, because sometimes the problem is that as we begin to clamor for increase of wages, as long as there is instability in the exchange rate, even if today they say, okay, you are earning 400,000, they moved you to start earning 700,000. If the dollar rate is not stable, before you know what's happening, what 400 was buying, 700,000 will not be able to buy. So we need to look at inflation. We need to also look at stability of our currency, our naira. That will also help, so that if you are earning 400 will be able to buy. Not that you're earning 400, what 400 could buy in 2011, 2021, 700 cannot buy, or 1 million cannot buy now. So what's the need of increasing the money if it's just to increase salary? So we really look at that. And then, of course, Nigerian doctors are doing very, very well anywhere in the world. Medical tourism, as you said, billions of naira are spent in other countries. If we invest in health, in fact, I was discussing with somebody, he said, the amount that Nigerians spend schooling abroad, if we inject that amount, 3 times that amount, if we inject it in 3 years, every institution in this country will be turned to Harvard. I don't know if you are getting me. Yes. The amount Nigerians spend training abroad, if that amount is used consecutively for 3 years, that will turn our educational system to world class. So also the medical tourism. I don't know if you have ever traveled abroad and they are giving you bills for some, even just x-ray and so. You feel, one, people go there because, one, maybe they trust the system. We have good doctors in Nigeria. So all we need to do is to invest in our healthcare system. And then, of course, it will save many lives. It will help Nigerians to live. Instead of you spending 1 million naira to travel abroad, some of those surgeries, you can actually do them here with 100,000.
All right, our time is fast, but before we let you go, let's go back to Southern Kaduna. Now, there's been insinuations of religious division in Southern Kaduna, which has been like the major bone of contention, fueling crisis in the area. So now, what are your thoughts on that, and what can be done to buffer lasting solutions, and how can they actually bring in the Southern, or how can the Southern Kaduna leaders close rank among themselves in order to bring forth these lasting solutions?
To be frank, we've been working on that, and then I can say we are not where we used to be. When it comes to peace building, I think the religious institutions have also been engaging, and also the traditional institution. What I think over the years, some of the things that have actually fueled this thing is inequality. When people see that the level of appointments or development are lopsided, people begin to have this kind of agitation. But where there is fairness, there is equity, you hardly see union get strong if they are receiving, things are moving very well. You only see union getting stronger when they have common enemy or when they have common pain. But even in workplaces, if people are really enjoy getting so much benefit, everybody is happy, you discover that the labor union there is very weak. You understand? But where there is deprivation, where there is injustice, inequality, you discover that it makes those social cultural groups to become very strong, because there's something they are actually fighting, and everybody will of course knows that this is true. So the issue of Southern Kaduna, I am happy that right now we're enjoying some level of peace right now, and we pray that even as we get into the election year, that the peace will continually get stronger and stronger. And I wouldn't say sometimes you can't even win a battle without the support or the connival of some members of that community. So we know that there is a Hausa proverb that says, "Ba a cin gari in ba tare da ɗan gari ba," that you will never conquer a town except you have a mold or somebody from that town that is supporting it. So we are calling our people and we engage them, we engage our youth, we engage with our traditional institution, we are engaging our religious institution to know that, listen, if there is no peace, we can't even have development. We don't want that kind of that when you mention Southern Kaduna, somebody is looking at, no. It's like we don't want to be identified with crisis. We'll be happy that somebody sits down abroad, wants to invest, and is thinking, okay, let me come down to Southern Kaduna and build a ginger factory, or let me come and establish a dairy farm. Somebody wants to establish a dairy farm. Somebody wants to establish any kind of farm, or you want to establish an industry. You see Southern Kaduna as a hub, as the destination of choice. You know, that's what we want, and we are also clamoring for that peace to be sustained, so that we will attract investors. It's for our good. When people come and establish factories in our places, they are not going to bring people from far to work. Our sons and daughters will be employed there, and they will work. And of course, that will also boost the economy of that area.
So the ripple effect is quite massive. Thank you so much for your time with us, Honorable Amos. It's been a wonderful time having this discussion with you.
Thank you very much, Annabelle.
Awesome. All right, viewers, that's where we end the conversation for today. We have been chatting with Honorable Amos Gwamna Magaji, and it's been a wonderful time here on The Conversation. Keep watching The Conversation, because you never know who my next guest will be and what my next topic will be all about. Like up your way again from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Annabelle Oji. God bless Nigeria.